Thank you. Mr. President, I listened carefully to Senator Lindsey Graham, who put forward a very dangerous bill for women in this country and their families. And I'll explain why I think it's dangerous, but what was interesting is he said he brought forward today because today, I think he said, was the anniversary that Dr. Gosnell was convicted and sent to prison. This is a rogue doctor who committed despicable acts, illegal acts, and is now serving life in prison without the possibility of parole for what he did, abusing the trust of being a reproductive health care doctor. So Dr. Gosnell is away, as he should be. And so how does my friend from North Carolina commemorate this? By putting forward a bill that will drive more women to rogue doctors. If you make it illegal for a woman, regardless of her circumstance, she is going to find a way to either save her health, her life, her family. So women deserve to have protections. And the bill that my friend proposed, which would just simply say, after a certain number of weeks, no more abortion, no matter what your health situation is very dangerous. Now, I would just say rhetorically, how can you say you're doing something right for women and their families when you don't have a health exception? If a woman goes to the doctor and she finds out she's facing cancer, kidney failure, blood clots, other tragic complications, why should government step in the middle of her family? Why should government and United States senators step in the middle between the woman, her doctor, her God, and her family? It's a disgrace from a party that says, get government off our backs. This is horrible. There's no exception for rape or incest victims who were unable to report those heinous crimes. Let's say they were too frightened. Now all of a sudden, they get the courage. Too bad. Have your rapist child. This is not a government that cares about families. This is a government that steps into our lives at the most tragic moments of our lives. The bill is so extreme that the American Congress of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, which represents thousands of OBGYNs, said these restrictions are, quote, dangerous to patients' safety and health. Who do you think stands up for the health of the women in this country? United States senators or doctors that know the woman, that know the family, that know the circumstances of her health? There's Christy from Central Virginia who said, my husband and I were confronted with two equally horrible options: carry the pregnancy to term and watch our baby girl suffocate to death upon birth, or terminate the pregnancy early and say goodbye to our much wanted and much loved baby girl. Christy, that's her. Why should a senator tell her what to do? I'll tell you, it's a war on women. When you tell a woman in that type of circumstance what to do, and you take away her right to use her mind, use her brain, use her love that she has for her family, for her husband, for her children, to make this decision. Christy was pregnant with her second child when that happened. She wanted this baby, but it wasn't until a 20-week ultrasound that she found out her daughter would suffocate to death at birth. What United States senator has a right to make her watch that baby child suffocate to death? I'm sorry, that is not life-affirming. Then there's Judy in Wisconsin. I know, she says, what it's like to live without a mother. My mother died when I was 4, and it changed my life forever. And she tells the story that 4 months into her pregnancy, she developed a pregnancy-induced blood clot in her arm. The only guarantee that she wouldn't die and leave behind her 5-year-old son was for Judy to terminate the pregnancy. She and her husband made the very difficult decision to terminate that pregnancy. What right does a United States Senator who doesn't even know her, doesn't know her husband, doesn't know her family history, doesn't know that she lost her mother when she was a child, what right does a United States Senator have to step into that world at that moment and tell someone what they have to do? Do we think so little of the women in this nation? We just had Mother's Day. We lauded our mothers. We're crying out for the girls who were taken by terrorists. We all care. Then why would we support legislation like this? Then there's Bridget, a 25-year-old mom who was looking forward to the birth of her 3rd child. She initially had a normal ultrasound at 13 weeks. Her 2nd ultrasound showed a major complex fetal cardiac malformation, a fatal problem. Because tests could only confirm this fatal defect later in the pregnancy, she couldn't make a decision until after the 20 weeks. Now, what right does a United States Senator have to get in the middle of her most personal, most private, most difficult decisions? There is a place for government. It's to make life better for people. It's to say, we're with you, we have your back, we understand what you're going through, not to make life so difficult for people. In Missouri, Julie and her husband were told relatively early in her pregnancy that the baby they were expecting had multiple abnormalities and would not survive outside the womb. But it took her 3 weeks to locate an abortion provider because they had shut down so many providers, Madam President. They found out under Missouri's restrictive laws, she'd have to travel 2 hours to a facility on 2 separate occasions to comply with the state's 24-hour waiting period. And when they were finally able to get the care they needed, her pregnancy was just over 20 weeks. What right does any United States Senator have to step out there and tell the American people that we know better than their families know, that we know better than their doctors know, that we know better than their clergy knows? And then this bill targets doctors who risk their lives to help women who are at risk for paralysis, infertility, who have cancer, and whose lives would be in danger if they continued a pregnancy. This bill would throw those doctors in prison for 5 years just for providing needed health care to their patients. I don't know what kind of country people envision when you have the government policing the private health decisions of women and their families. Why would we want to go back to the last century and open up battles that have long been fought? Those battles were fought in 1973 when Roe v. Wade was the decision of the Supreme Court. And you know what that court said? They balanced all the rights of the fetus with the rights of the mother. And they said early in the pregnancy, a woman has this right to choose. It's her decision. But as you go along later, yes, there will be restrictions. And that's fine, as long as the health and the life of the mother are in the forefront. This legislation that Senator Graham wants to vote on, before it even goes to any committee, as Senator Blumenthal was saying, it's not what's best for women and their families. It's not what's best for our communities. It's about an extreme right-wing agenda that needs to